Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
If I could sit across from my younger self, I wouldn't give her advice about success or money. I'd tell her the truth, the kind that saves years of pretending, performing, and people-pleasing. I'd tell her what no one ever said out loud, that being brave will break your heart, but not being brave will break your soul. When I was in my 20s, I thought strength meant never showing weakness. I smiled when I was hurting. I said, "I'm fine," when I was drowning. I thought vulnerability was a liability, something to hide, not something to hold. One day, after another failed relationship and another sleepless night trying to be enough, I realized I was living a life built on approval, not authenticity. And I remember standing in front of the mirror, whispering, "Who am I trying to be?" That question changed everything. Because the truth is, most of us don't lose ourselves all at once. We lose ourselves in pieces, one compromise, one silence, one fake smile at a time. And by the time we notice, the person in the mirror feels like a stranger. You don't owe the world a version of yourself that makes everyone comfortable. But for most of us, that's exactly how we've been taught to live. Performing instead of being. When I was younger, I thought being liked meant being safe. I thought being accepted meant being loved. And I believed that if I could just be good enough, quiet enough, polite enough, agreeable enough, then I would belong. But here's what life eventually taught me: belonging doesn't come from being accepted by others. It comes from accepting yourself first. We spend so much of our lives apologizing for existing in our full truth. We apologize for our emotions, for crying too easily, for caring too deeply, for speaking too passionately. We shrink ourselves to fit into rooms that were never built to hold our light. We laugh off the comments that sting. We tone ourselves down so others don't feel threatened, and we carry the silent weight of being too much. But here's the thing: you are not too much. You are exactly enough for the life you were meant to live. It takes courage to stop apologizing for being who you are. Because the moment you do, you'll notice how uncomfortable it makes people who have learned to hide behind masks. Authenticity disrupts performance. It exposes truth. And not everyone can handle that. When I began showing up as my real self, when I stopped curating my personality and started living from my values, I lost some people. But I also found peace. I discovered that the cost of pretending was far greater than the cost of rejection. Because rejection stings for a while, but self-betrayal that lingers for years. You see, authenticity is not about shouting who you are from the rooftops. It's about whispering to your own soul, "I'm done pretending." It's about honoring the quiet parts of you that have been silenced for too long. The parts that say, "I'm tired of smiling when I want to cry. I'm tired of saying yes when I mean no." When you stop apologizing for being who you are, you begin to experience life differently. Conversations feel lighter. Connections feel real. You attract people who don't just tolerate your truth, they treasure it. Because when you stand in your authenticity, you silently give others permission to do the same. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's strength in motion. It's saying, "Here I am, flaws and all," and trusting that you're still worthy of love. That's not just emotional bravery. That's soul-level courage. You will meet people who want the polished version of you, the easy, unmessy, predictable version. But you'll also meet people who crave your realness, your unfiltered, wholehearted, honest truth. And those are your people. So stop shrinking, stop apologizing, stop performing for acceptance. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your presence, your laughter, your messiness, your raw humanity. Because the moment you stop apologizing for being who you are, you'll finally begin to recognize the person you were always meant to be. I wish someone had told me this when I was younger. That failure isn't the end of the story. It's the middle. The messy, uncomfortable, awkward middle where you learn who you really are. When we're young, we're taught to chase success like it's a finish line. Straight, clean, and certain. We think that if we just work hard enough, plan well enough, or please enough people, everything will go perfectly. And when it doesn't, when things fall apart, when we get rejected, when we fail, we start to believe there's something wrong with us. But failure doesn't mean you're not enough. It means you're trying, It means you were brave enough to risk something. It means you cared about something enough to show up. I remember a time in my career when I poured everything into a project that completely collapsed. I had worked for months, sacrificed sleep, ignored my instincts, and pushed myself beyond exhaustion. When it failed, I was devastated. I felt embarrassed, ashamed, and small. I replayed every mistake in my mind and told myself, if you were smarter, stronger, better, this wouldn't have happened. But here's the truth I learned in that dark season: failure didn't break me. It revealed me. It showed me the limits of my control, the depth of my resilience, and the real meaning of courage. Courage isn't standing tall when everything's going right. It's standing back up when everything's gone wrong. We live in a world that celebrates winning and hides losing. We post the highlight reels and bury the heartbreaks. But real growth doesn't happen on the mountaintop. It happens in the valley, in the silence after disappointment, in the questions that have no answers, in the nights when you wonder if it's even worth continuing. The people you admire most, the ones who seem unstoppable, aren't fearless. They're familiar with failure. They've learned to dance with it. They know that every no brings them closer to the yes that matters. Every door that closes redirects them to something better, aligned with their purpose. Failure is a teacher, not a verdict. It doesn't label you, it shapes you. It invites you to pause, to reflect, to ask, what is this moment trying to teach me? Sometimes it's humility. Sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's the courage to walk away from something that's not meant for you. When we avoid failure at all costs, we also avoid growth. We protect our egos but imprison our potential. Because playing it safe might keep you comfortable, but it will never make you proud. You are going to fall. You're going to mess up. You're going to wish you could start over. And sometimes you can. But even when you can't, remember, falling doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're alive. It means you're in the arena. It means you're becoming. The only real failure is refusing to learn. The only true loss is the one that teaches you nothing. So don't fear the fall. Fear the emptiness of a life lived without risk, without heart, without trying. Because one day, when you look back, you won't remember the times you stumbled. You'll remember that every time you did, you stood back up. And that's where success begins. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn, and I wish someone told me this when I was your age, is that people treat you the way you teach them to. The way you love yourself sets the tone for how others love you. For years, I chased love like it was something I had to earn. I tried to prove I was worthy by being kind, forgiving, patient, and endlessly understanding, even when it hurt. I mistook self-sacrifice for loyalty, silence for peace, and pleasing people for connection. I thought that if I gave enough, stayed long enough, or loved hard enough, they would finally see my worth. But love that demands you abandon yourself isn't love. It's dependency disguised as devotion. And the truth is, you cannot make anyone love you by losing yourself for them. I used to believe that setting boundaries meant being cold or selfish. I worried that saying no would make people leave. But over time, I learned that boundaries are not walls. They're the borders of respect. They are how you teach the world that your heart has value. When you let people cross your limits again and again, not only do they stop respecting you, you start losing respect for yourself. Every time you stay silent when something hurts, every time you pretend you're fine when you're not, every time you give another chance to someone who's done nothing to deserve it, you whisper to your soul, my needs don't matter. But they do. They always have. Self-love isn't standing in front of a mirror, repeating affirmations until you believe them. It's doing the hard thing. Walking away from what dishonors you, even when it's familiar. It's learning that peace sometimes costs people. It's realizing that being alone for a season is far better than being surrounded by people who drain you. I remember a moment years ago when I had to end a friendship that once felt like home. It wasn't because I stopped caring. It was because every time I left that person, I felt smaller, dimmer, less like myself. One day I realized love isn't supposed to shrink you. Real love from a friend, a partner, or even yourself should make you expand. It should help you breathe deeper, dream bigger, and feel safe being fully you. When you begin loving yourself, You start choosing differently. You stop chasing what confuses you. You stop begging for clarity. You stop making excuses for why someone can't show up for you the way you deserve. You begin to understand that consistency is love's language, not promises. And here's the beautiful thing: when you raise your standards, the wrong people fall away. But the right ones finally find you. The people who see your worth without you having to prove it. The people who stay not because you made it easy for them, but because they value who you truly are. Loving yourself isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's not saying, "I'm better than you." It's saying, "I'm better than the version of me that kept settling for less." So stop teaching people that your love comes with no boundaries. Stop convincing yourself that being chosen is the same as being cherished. The moment you begin to love yourself, fiercely, unapologetically, patiently, is the moment everything in your life begins to change. Because the truth is, when you honor your own heart, you invite others to do the same. You stop being an option and start being a priority. First to yourself and then to the world. If I could whisper one truth into the heart of every young person today, it would be this: stop comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel. Comparison is the quietest thief of joy, and it doesn't just steal your happiness, it robs you of your identity. From the moment we wake up, we are surrounded by reminders of who we should be. Social media feeds us a constant stream of filtered lives, success stories, perfect relationships, flawless bodies, and endless achievements. And somewhere in between all those scrolling seconds, we begin to wonder if we're enough. We start measuring our worth not by who we are, but by how we stack up against someone else. When I was younger, I used to believe that everyone else had it figured out except me. I thought there was something wrong with me for not being as confident, as successful, as together, as the people around me seemed to be. What I didn't realize then was that most of them were struggling too. They were just better at hiding it. You see, comparison is built on illusion. It tricks us into believing that other people's lives are perfect because we only see what they choose to show. But the truth is, behind every perfect smile is a story we don't know. Behind every success is a season of doubt, of sacrifice, of failure that we never witnessed. And yet, we hold ourselves hostage to their highlight reels. We say, "I should be further along by now," or "I should have what they have." We forget that everyone's timeline is different. We forget that growth isn't a race, it's a rhythm. What I've learned is that the moment you start living for comparison, you stop living for connection. You start chasing validation instead of authenticity. You lose the joy of the present moment because your eyes are fixed on someone else's path. But your path, your beautiful, winding, imperfect path, is the only one that was ever meant for you. There's a kind of peace that comes when you finally stop running someone else's race. When you begin to honor your pace, your process, your progress, no matter how slow it seems. Because progress is not about speed, it's about direction. It's about becoming who you're meant to be, not who others expect you to be. I remember one night scrolling through pictures of people I thought were living the life I wanted, happy, successful, loved. And I felt small. But something inside me whispered, "You're comparing your behind the scenes to their premiere show." That night I put my phone down and asked myself, what if I started celebrating my journey instead of criticizing it? That simple question changed everything. I began to realize that my life had its own beauty, even in the waiting seasons. My worth wasn't defined by my pace or my possessions. It was defined by my presence. When you stop comparing, you begin to see yourself clearly again. You start to notice your small wins, your quiet courage, your unseen progress. You begin to realize that true confidence doesn't come from being better than others. It comes from being at peace with yourself. So let others run their race. Let them shine in their moment. Your time is coming, maybe not in the way you imagined, but in the way you need. And when it does, it will feel like home. Because it won't be built on comparison, it'll be built on authenticity, on you. One of the most profound lessons I wish someone had told me when I was younger is that healing takes time, but growth requires honesty. And I don't mean the kind of honesty you give in passing or the kind that's easy to swallow. I mean the deep, sometimes painful, soul-level honesty that forces you to confront who you are, what you've done, and what you've endured. For a long time, I believed that if I just moved on quickly enough, if I smiled often enough, if I acted like everything was okay, I could skip the messy parts of life. I thought healing was about covering the cracks, putting on a mask, and pretending the wounds didn't exist. But the truth is, pretending doesn't heal anything. It only delays the reckoning that your soul needs to grow. I remember a season when I was carrying a grief I couldn't name. I kept busy, kept talking, kept pretending I was fine. But at night, when the world was quiet, the pain would creep in. I realized I was afraid to sit with it, because sitting with it meant I had to see myself clearly. All of me, all the parts I had tried to hide. Healing is uncomfortable because it asks us to feel what we've avoided for so long. It asks us to face the fear, the shame, the regret, and the heartbreak we've tucked away. And it asks us to say aloud truths that feel almost impossible. I was hurt. I was wronged. I made mistakes. I am still learning. A growth requires honesty because it forces transformation. You cannot grow in the same mindset, the same habits, or the same beliefs that caused the hurt in the first place. Growth is messy. It shakes you. It challenges your assumptions about yourself and the world. But if you can stay present in the discomfort, if you can bear witness to your own pain without turning away, that's when transformation begins. I've learned that healing and growth are not linear. There will be setbacks, days when you feel like you're starting over. There will be moments when the old fears resurface, when shame whispers lies you thought you had silenced, and that's okay. That's normal. What matters is that you continue. You continue to show up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely. Courage doesn't mean you get it right every time. Courage means you keep coming back. Courage means you acknowledge the pain without letting it define you. It means you are willing to be vulnerable with yourself, to admit that you don't have all the answers, that you've been hurt, that you are still healing, and still keep walking forward. The beauty of honesty and healing is that it frees you. It releases the weight of pretense. It allows you to embrace yourself fully, the wounded parts, the messy parts, the beautiful, resilient parts. And when you accept yourself in this way, you begin to show up differently in the world. You begin to love more deeply, connect more authentically, and live more courageously. So, if no one has told you yet, be honest with yourself. Sit with your pain, name your truth, feel the grief, the anger, the disappointment. Let it move through you, not trap you. Because when you do, you don't just survive, you transform. And transformation is the most beautiful gift you can give yourself, because it means you are not living a borrowed life, hiding behind masks or pretending to be fine. You are living fully, authentically, and courageously, exactly as you were meant to. If no one's ever told you this, let me be the first: you are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. So stop waiting for perfect conditions to start living. Stop silencing your truth to fit someone else's version of you. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your authentic courage. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone younger or older who might need to hear it too. Because sometimes one honest conversation can save someone years of self-doubt. And remember, the bravest thing you'll ever do is be yourself in a world that taught you to be someone else.